For the past 3 weeks, we've been trying to figure out, is technology taking over the reading world, or is it helping? So we asked these people what they thought. We asked each person several questions and got their opinions.
This is kind of about how technology is affecting literature. So would you say technology is taking over literature? Like, what are your opinions on that?
When I was young, I read all the time. I read all the books I could find. I loved it. About 7th grade, and they gave us laptops. I don't think I read a single book that year. Ever since I've been introduced to computers and technology, I've noticed that my amount of reading has declined.
I would say that technology is definitely taking over literature, and the point where I realized that that was going to happen was when I realized that I could put 3,000 books on a Kindle, and looking at moving 3,000 books on a Kindle versus moving 3,000 books physically, I said this is going to be big.
I would like to believe that it's going to be evenly split because there's always going to be a place for words, whether you access them on a device or access them in a printed book. I would say technology isn't going to take over, it's just going to transform the way literature is accessed.
I always say that it isn't a replacement, it's an augmentation. So it augments and gives us another way in which to access books and media. But actually there have been a lot of studies that show that teens are reading more print than digital when it comes to books. I also think that it will continue to complement the print word, but that it won't replace it.
What about trending books? Do you read trending books?
Definitely. I mean, we're a retail bookstore, so we sell popular literature, and it's important that we know what's trending.
No.
I didn't necessarily read them. Like, I skimmed through 50 Shades of Grey just so I could be prepared when I was recommending it to an 80-year-old woman, so I could tell her this is what this book is about.
I am a teen librarian, so I'm very lucky because I get to read all teen literature. Fortunately, a lot of the times the trending books are also really good, so it is something that I sincerely want to read. On the other hand, I'll often skip something that I know I don't have to sell to somebody. So a lot of what we do here in the library is getting the right book into the hands of the right reader, like if you just don't know what to read next. So I try to read some stuff that's really well reviewed and getting maybe a little less hype, but that might be a really great book that I could recommend to somebody.
So what was the last book you guys read?
I love questions like this. Ooh. I just finished a graphic novel called Mara by Brian Wood. And I loved it, and I just talked about it at a meeting this morning, and I think everybody's going to try and check it out. We only have one copy, but I'm going to get more. And it's a great graphic novel. Somebody described it as a cross between Superwoman and The Hunger Games. It takes place in the future, it's sci-fi, and it's where everybody is either groomed for the military or as a professional athlete.
The last book I read was a book of short stories by this author, Miranda July.
The last book was an Elizabeth Coatsworth book about Maine, and I can't remember the name of it.
It was a first-person account of this guy, Cabeza de Vaca, who was a Spanish man. In 1527, he was part of an expedition into what are now the Gulf states of America: Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, all of this. So this is the first time Europeans had really been been to these areas,
If you go to see a movie adaptation, do you read the book first?
Oh, yeah.
I've done it both ways. And there are definitely versions that I have liked better than the books. That's the less common, but it certainly happens.
When I do see movies, yes. That would be the only reason I would ever go be interested.
I'm always really nervous when I go into a theater to see a book that I really loved.
A lot of times I won't go see a movie that's based on a book that I've read because it doesn't get better with the movie usually, but it depends on the movie. Sometimes they're really well done, so I'll listen to what's going on, what people are saying about it, and then I'll make a decision.
Do you use any social media that supports reading, like Goodreads or Wattpad?
Yeah, we use it here, and Kirkus Review, and yeah, Goodreads, I guess. Goodreads not as much anymore, it's owned by Amazon, so we've sort of boycotted it.
Oh yeah, I use Goodreads. Yeah, I have a Goodreads account and I've spent quite a bit of time on there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Goodreads just so that it can organize my books, and I get great recommendations that way. And actually, the times that I have had to recommend books to patrons, I find myself going onto my Goodreads and looking at their lists.
I also use Goodreads. It makes me feel good when I can say that I finished something or like chart my
Yes.
progress. And I love that it helps me keep track of what I've read, and I create a lot of different shelves so that I can organize things into categories. So I definitely use that, and I use it for work as well as my personal life.
Yes, all of my books are on Goodreads, and I go there for author friends. I go and get their books there as well, or I get recommendations for them.
So how much time do you try to put aside for reading? Is it a priority for you?
It's a priority because it is my job. A lot of my job is reading, especially since I'm a subject specialist. So I feel like the more I read, the better I am at my job. We are very busy, and as we said, we can't read. But I try to read every night before I go to bed.
I don't. Like, I kind of read when I feel like it, so every now and then I might pick up the book that I'm reading again. So I don't really have specific time set for reading, which I have really been regretting lately because I'm kind of saddened by the fact that I don't read as much anymore.
It's a mix because I do professional reading and I do personal reading, and sometimes the professional reading takes way more of my reading time than I'd like. But I try to read at least a half an hour to an hour every day.
What about e-readers? Do you think those have also helped Reading Community Go?
E-readers are not necessary.
I mean, yes, they have to replace something because when I read a book on my Kindle, I'm therefore not borrowing it from the library in a print book. However, it's still a version of the book.
I would probably say, if I was traveling, I would probably go with a Kindle. But as far as just every day, I'd much rather have a real book in my hands.
I also don't mean to bad talk e-readers, but I think that technology is moving so quickly that they may not be the technology that stays. I think more people are reading on tablets and phones than they are on like proprietary e-readers like a Kindle or a Nook.
I have always preferred actual books. You know, you can read it online, but then you're getting all that screen light in your face, and that's bad. One, you know, my mom's a medical professional, and she says that's really bad for your eyes, and I choose to believe her. I love the smell of old paper. I don't know, it's pretty weird, but it's just this kind of thing that's like, it's a unique smell. This book has lasted over, you see a book and it's from like 1917 and you're like, wow, this book has been around for almost 100 years. Like, you see one of the old books that was written a long time ago and you're like, it's so old, and it just baffles me that a piece made out of like pasted tree bark can last that long. It's just paper with amazing words written across it, and it just lasts for years and years on end. And I'm just like, there's something just so, I don't know, maybe it's spiritual or something, but about actually holding the book in your hand, because you're like, this is the source.
What's your favorite book, or some of your favorite books?
Some of my favorite books, Beautiful Losers by Leonard Cohen is a favorite.
I would say my favorite book is Anna Karenina. It's like an old Russian novel, and there's been so many translations of it. I try to reread it like every winter because it's like Russia in the winter.
That would be so hard to narrow it down. My quintessential favorite is Walden, but I have a few that I always go back and read. There's an Elizabeth Coatsworth book that I think I've read probably 10 times called Here I Stay, and I like to go back and read things like For example, Gone with the Wind. I've read Gone with the Wind several times, and one of the times I read it, I was living down south, and it gave it a whole new meaning. So some books I'll return to over and over again, and Walden would be one of them.
That's a very difficult question. I like a lot of books. So I have to say top 3 series, Wheel of Time, I actually pretty much already went over them. Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, the Fitz and the Fool books, Patrick Rothfuss, the Kingkiller Chronicles. Those are really